There's a lie you've repeated so many times it became your truth. I'll start tomorrow. It's innocent, feels like a small delay, a harmless pause, but it's not a pause, it's a sedative. And every time you whisper that lie, a part of you dies. Not dramatically, slowly, silently. Because tomorrow is the graveyard where your discipline goes to rot. You don't postpone things because you're weak. You postpone them because your brain is smart, dangerously smart. It's trying to protect you from discomfort, stress, and uncertainty. It wants short-term safety, not long-term transformation. So it whispers, "You've had a tough day. Rest a bit. You'll do better later." But later never comes. And worse, the more you delay, the more you start believing the problem is you. You label yourself lazy, inconsistent, broken. If you enjoy this type of video, don't forget to click the like and subscribe button. But what if I told you the problem isn't your potential? It's your pattern. You've trained your mind to escape discomfort with distraction. Every skipped task, every snoozed alarm, every avoided responsibility is a vote. Not just for inaction, but for who you are becoming. You're not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because your actions are aligned with a version of you that prefers comfort over growth. Here's the kicker. The habit of postponing isn't passive. It's active self-sabotage, masked as patience. And deep down, you know it. That's why you feel shame after. That's why it eats at you in the quiet. You don't hate discipline. You hate the person you become without it. If you want out, start here. Catch the tomorrow lie in real time. Interrupt it. Do one thing, small, ugly, unsexy, today. Because once you stop postponing your life, the life you want finally starts to notice you're serious. You're not unmotivated. You're addicted to the illusion that one day the feeling will come. That magical surge, the inner fire, the movie soundtrack moment. And suddenly, everything will change. You'll wake up early, go to the gym, write the book, fix your life. Except, it never comes. Because motivation is a liar. It doesn't show up when you need it. It shows up after you've already done the hard thing. The truth? You don't need motivation. You need movement. Action, especially when you feel like doing nothing, is the most rebellious form of self-respect there is. And ironically, that action creates the very momentum you were waiting for. But you've been trained differently, fed by a culture of dopamine spikes, short-term hits, and Instagram gurus telling you to just vibe higher. You think you need to feel good to start. That's backwards. The people you admire, the disciplined, the focused, the relentless, they don't feel like it either. They've just learned not to negotiate with their weakness. Motivation is a mood. Discipline is a decision. And every day you wait for the right mood, your dreams grow older and your potential grows colder. There's a graveyard of brilliant minds who never moved because they never felt like it. I knew a guy. Let's call him Daniel. Creative genius, big goals. Every time we spoke, he had a new vision. Write a book, launch a brand, move abroad. But he always waited for that perfect headspace. 5 years later, same ideas, nothing done. Because he was waiting to feel ready instead of getting ready by doing. Here's your real challenge. Get up and move when every cell says, don't. That's where the shift begins. Not in your mind, but in your muscle memory. Discipline isn't about how you feel. It's about who you refuse to be anymore. Here's the part no one wants to admit. You're not stuck because life is hard. You're stuck because life is comfortable enough. You hate your job, but it pays the bills. You want to change your habits, but not today. You say you're tired, but scroll for hours. And in the silence, you wonder, why can't I move? Because you're not in pain. You're in a trance. Comfort is no longer relief. It's a prison with padded walls. We live in the age of easy. Food at your door, entertainment in your pocket, validation with a swipe. You don't even have to feel bored anymore. Your phone kills that too. But there's a price. The more comfort you chase, the more discomfort you fear. And the more you fear discomfort, the weaker you become. Discipline doesn't die from chaos. It dies from convenience. It's not Netflix that ruins your focus. It's the belief that you've earned a break before you've earned the result. Your nervous system is hooked. Dopamine rewards every tap, Every scroll, every snack. It trains you like a lab rat. Avoid friction, seek pleasure. So when you try to build something meaningful, something that requires patience, effort, repetition, your brain rebels. Not because you're incapable, because you've been conditioned. Want to know the scariest part? Comfort doesn't scream. It whispers. Just rest a little. You've had a long day. You'll do better tomorrow. It lulls you to sleep while your life leaks through the cracks. Here's your way out. Do something uncomfortable, on purpose. Sit in silence. Lift something heavy. Write without inspiration. Not because it feels good, but because it doesn't. Every time you override comfort, you reclaim a piece of your strength. And slowly, the fog begins to clear. I'm not a morning person. I'm just not disciplined. I've always been like this. Sound familiar? These aren't facts. They're cages, invisible, self-imposed, and wrapped in the language of personality. But here's the truth. The greatest prison you'll ever live in is the story you keep telling yourself. Somewhere along the line, you mistook patterns for personality. You confused habits with identity. And now, you walk through life defending your limitations as if they define you. Not because they're true, but because they're familiar. And familiar feels safe, even if it's killing your potential. Carl Jung had a name for this, the shadow, the parts of ourselves we reject, deny, or never even meet. So when you say, I'm not the type to stick with things, what you really mean is, I've repeated a pattern so many times, I think it's who I am. But it's not. You're not your mood. You're not your laziness. You're not your past. You're the one watching all of that, and you've been asleep at the wheel. Let me be blunt. You were not born disorganized. You weren't born scattered, addicted to comfort, or mentally foggy. Those are just masks you learn to wear, so you wouldn't have to face the pain of changing, because change isn't just hard, it's identity death. You lose the version of yourself you've leaned on, even if that version is small, scared, and self-defeating. But what's on the other side? A version of you who doesn't flinch at discipline, who doesn't apologize for wanting more, who wakes up with clarity because they're no longer performing a script, they're writing a new one. If you want to evolve, you have to fire the character you've been playing, let them go, and step into the version of you that's been waiting in the dark. Let's tell the truth. You're not practicing self-care. You're negotiating your way out of discomfort. You're not protecting your peace. You're protecting your patterns. And the worst part? You've learned to call it balance. Be gentle with yourself. Rest is productive. Don't push too hard. Sure, that advice matters, but only if you're actually doing the work and burning out. Most people aren't burned out from overwork. They're burned out from unfulfilled potential. You're tired because your soul is screaming for movement, for discipline, for structure, not more bubble baths and Netflix. You don't need a nap. You need a wake-up call. Modern self-care culture has become a disguise, a soothing way to dress up avoidance. You've done enough today, you tell yourself, before doing nothing meaningful. You call it self-love. But love, real love, has demands. It requires you to grow, to stretch, to become. And that's the part you're skipping. Because growth is uncomfortable. It requires you to break your own patterns, to disappoint the lazy version of you, to say no to momentary pleasure for the sake of long-term peace. Here's what no one tells you. Real self-care is not always pleasant. Sometimes it's saying, no, I won't scroll, I'll write. No, I won't binge, I'll cook. No, I won't quit, I'll push one more rep. Discipline is self-care. Boundaries are self-care. Keeping your word to yourself, especially when no one's watching, that's the highest form of respect. So ask yourself right now, are you truly taking care of yourself, or just comforting your way through another wasted day? Because one path builds you, the other puts you to sleep with soft words, while your life burns in the background. Let's stop pretending. The problem isn't time, or motivation, or energy. The real war is happening in one place, your mind. And right now, it's being run by deserters. Every time you say, just 5 more minutes, every time you scroll instead of start, every time you almost do the thing, but don't, you hand over command to chaos. You've been hijacked, not by some external villain, but by your own unchecked impulses. The emotional child inside you, the one who wants comfort, praise, dopamine, escape. That part is in charge, and the adult, the focused, clear, grounded version of you, is tied up in the basement, watching it all unfold. This isn't poetic, it's biological. Neuroscience proves it. The part of your brain responsible for discipline, the prefrontal cortex, is constantly battling the limbic system, your pleasure-seeking autopilot. Every time you choose short-term ease, you reinforce the limbic loop. Every time you do the hard thing anyway, you rewire the system. That's not motivation, that's mechanics. So, what do? You take the wheel, now, not next Monday, not when Mercury's done retrograding. Now start with something small and concrete. One non-negotiable habit. Wake up and walk. Write for 20 minutes. Turn off your phone for an hour. Make it so simple that the lazy version of you has no excuse. Because once you win a small war, the brain starts to believe you're the general again. This isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about remembering you were never powerless to begin with. You just forgot who was in charge, but now you remember. And the moment you act on that remembering, not just think it, but move on it, you win the first battle. And the war, it starts to end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click the like and subscribe button.